Just need to take a second, guys, and say that this video was brought to you by the EA Game Changers program. I'm really excited for being brought on board and what it's going to do for my content. Alright guys, it's time to change the franchise sim game. We're going to take a look and see what would have happened had Peter Chiarelli never come to Edmonton. I'm No Sleeves 12, and this is the Oilers do-over. Traded Hall for Larson. Yikes. Think of it like this. What would have happened had each franchise in the NHL had a magical genie that could grant them 3 wishes? Now imagine I'm that genie. What I'm going to do is take all 31 franchises and reverse 3 mistakes that they made. Here are the rules for the do-over series. So here's how it'll work. You can reverse any transaction done from the 2015 draft to today. Any draft pick change must be 3 spots or fewer less. You can't pick higher because you would have never gotten that player. Any change in free agency signings has to be for roughly the same cap hit. You can't take a $2 million signing, say, no, I don't want that, and go sign a big fish because that just wouldn't have happened. And like I said, any trade dating back to the summer of 2015 can be reversed. So let's get into it. So let's start with the easy one. On June 29th, 2016, Peter Chiarelli made a brilliant move of trading Adam Larson for Taylor Hall, which at the time seemed like an overpayment because Taylor Hall was a fantastic scoring forward, but Edmonton needed defense, so it could have been a little bit justified. Fast forward a few years, and Taylor Hall dragged a mediocre New Jersey Devils team to a playoff run and won the Hart Trophy. This was a no-brainer, one of the easiest reversals in the last 3 seasons for the Edmonton Oilers. For the second reversal, we go back to the 2015 NHL entry draft, where Chiarelli sent the 16th overall pick to the New York Islanders in exchange for former 4th overall pick Griffin Reinhart. That pick famously ended up being Matthew Barzal. So let's reverse the trade and have the Oilers select the player that they should have gotten, because again, the Bruins completely whiffed on that as well with 3 consecutive picks prior to Barzal. And for my last do-over, there was a few options because Chiarelli has been such a disaster, but I could have reversed the Eberle for Strome, but I didn't mind Strome because he is a little bit cheaper, but I'm going to reverse the Lucic signing. That was $6 million per year for 7 seasons. The declining Milan Lucic, who just, this style of hockey does not fit with today's game. So for the last reversal, we're going to make it so that signing never happened. So guys, let's get into the actual franchise mode. I do want to mention, the goal here is to win a cup within 3 seasons. So I'm going to try and win one as realistically as possible. I'm not going to trade all of my first round picks for the next 7 years because that realistically wouldn't happen in the real NHL. I'm also not going to go and try and acquire franchise players with trades that just wouldn't happen in today's game. So I want to make this as realistic as possible to see if, just by reversing some of the mistakes that teams have made, how good they would be today. So let's get into it with the Edmonton Oilers. So as you can see, looking at the lines with Hall and Barzal, they're already significantly better than what they are currently. There is obviously a kind of a big hole on the back end, so I'm going to need to address that via trade or free agency and things like that. But this offensive core that they've got now with the Hall and Barzal acquisitions and not signing Lucic, there's cap space available, and we can go ahead and make some moves. There isn't really much depth in the farm system, and again, that's okay. I think this team is good enough to win now, and we're going to make some, see if we can't make some key acquisitions and get them over the hump. Just taking a quick look at their AHL team, they do have Kyler Yamamoto, so that might be an interesting call-up with the new progression system to see if he does actually progress enough where he can actually, contribute. Same with Ethan Bear, so there are a few prospects that I could use potentially as fill-ins throughout the season. So while we're here, we might as well fix the captaincy issue. Connor McDavid is obviously going to be the captain of my Oilers with Taylor Hall now returning. He's going to be the assistant. I also need to change his number to 4. We're going to make Darnell Nurse the other assistant captain. Dude will chuck knuckles when he needs to defend the boys, so he gets the A. So let's quickly update the trade block for the Oilers. We're going to see if we can't move Sekera and Benning, as well as a pick or 2, and see if we can't upgrade our forward depth with some younger players as well as our defense. Again, the defense on the Oilers is a bit lacking because we didn't trade Taylor Hall for Adam Larson. Obviously need to find some more defensemen that, can kind of fill the holes there. So let's see if we can't go and make a trade for a better defenseman. So I browse the trade block here. Nothing really on the Anaheim Ducks that I would like, so let's go to the Arizona Coyotes, and bam, what do you know, a few defensemen that we could use to really upgrade the Oilers' defense. So let's start with Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Obviously, he's a very, very good stay-at-home defenseman, just what the Oilers need, so let's see if I can't pull off a deal for Hjalmarsson here. And after a little bit of finesse for the second and third round pick for this upcoming season in Andrej Sekera, who's a worse defenseman at about $1.5 million more per year, I'm able to acquire him from the Coyotes. So Nicholas Hjalmarsson slides right into really the top pairing for the Edmonton Oilers going into this year. So I feel pretty comfortable already with the upgrades on defense. So Hjalmarsson's obviously not going to do it alone, so I hit up the Flames trade block, and Travis Hamonic is available for trade. Like I said, I don't want to be moving any of my first-round picks or my big assets for trades. That just wouldn't happen, so I take a look at who the Flames are interested in, and second-round pick from last year, Ryan McLeod, is one of them. I don't really have the patience to wait for the second-round pick to become anything, and he is a forward, not really something I need, so I'm okay with moving him. As well as Chris Russell, who obviously his contract far outweighs his skill level at this point, and Travis Hamonic would obviously be an insane upgrade over Chris Russell. So I'm okay with moving them, and if the Flames get their prospect as well as a replacement defenseman, and I get my top 4 D-man, and now my defense core is starting to take shape. So after those two trades, here's what my D-core is looking like. Klefbom and Hamonic up front, Hjalmarsson and Benning on the second pair, followed by Darnell Nurse and Kevin Gravel. Like I said, I'm very confident in this unit compared to what it was, as well as the forward group with Hall and Barzal available. So let's get into the season and see how she goes. So after simming the preseason, I realized that I don't really have any scratch defensemen or a seventh defenseman that I can use when injuries are going to happen. So I hit the free agency and get my first taste of the fog of war system. Without scouting your free agents and everything like that, obviously you don't know 100% accurately what their stats and things are, so it is kind of an adjustment. So I just go by a name that I know. I know Duncan Siemens is nothing special. He was a first-round bust from the Colorado Avalanche years ago, but he's a cheap defenseman, and that's exactly what I need, so I pick him up for the 2018 season. So guys, we're finally ready for the Edmonton Oilers redo season to start on opening night against the New Jersey Devils. So let's see what happens. Now, I do need to mention, we're changing up the franchise game a little bit here. This is full-on CPU. We're going to see how it turns out, all right? We're going to pick this up in overtime where one of the acquisitions we made makes a giant impact to start the season.
Puck gathered in behind the net. Score! Game over! Oh.
And what do you know? The game winner goes to Taylor Hall against his New Jersey Devils. Great start to the season. And we're only 2 weeks into the season, and Oscar Klefbom was already hurt. He's only out for a few days, but we're already into the replacements just a few days into the season, and I think that this is going to be a common occurrence. Spoiler alert. So Duncan Siemens checks into a game already, much faster than I wanted him to, but here we are. So we're about to hit the home opener for the 2018 season, so let's see how the Oilers' home opener went.
Here in Edmonton. And now we turn to the last lines of defense, the goalies. Coaching staff remains confident in this guy. He won the last game. A win in his last game, so he gets the nod in this one. The centermen are in, and the puck will be dropped. McDavid sent to the big center ice circle for Edmonton. Bergeron's out there to try to beat him for the Bruins. And play has begun.
The Bruins added a W to their stats in their last game by...
Get the number on.
Oh, you gotta love that early hit, Doc. You get to the rink, you want it.
Score! Good place to shoot from. They score!
So not exactly the start I wanted after one, but let's see if they can get back into it.
Snapping a pass to Clefbaum. Gains that offensive line. Slot shot. They score! It's only a one-goal game now. The Bruins with a clean win on the draw. He throws it there. Score! And this one is tied.
We came into the game, guys, thinking these teams were evenly matched. Now we've played some of this contest, and here we are back at a stalemate.
Nordstrom. Lets it go. Score! Slid to Barzal. Good shooting place. Score! A power play goal, and it's a biggie.
So heading into the third tie game, obviously the boys battled back, but we've got an intense last few minutes of the third period that I wanna show you guys.
Lets a shot go. Save there. Great shooting lane. Stared him down and made the save. To the point with it. Hey. Got that one ahead at center ice. Nice play with the stick. Nothing more will come. A good cut of the pass. They can keep the pressure on. Wonderful save. What skill by both goalie and shooter. What a performance, and it's not over yet. These guys will play on in overtime. One last terrific save that forces overtime. And there it was.
So the real reason why I wanted to show you guys this game in depth was because of how it ended. If there's any question if the AI got any better going into this year, this is going to all but kill that.
Next shooter for the Bruins, number 37,
He scores! It's over. The last.
As if Bergeron toe drag flipped from a computer to win the game. Man, NHL 19's fantastic. So new to NHL 19 is the Central Scouting Rankings. The all-new in-depth scouting system is fantastic and really in-depth. For this do-over with the Oilers, I know I don't need to rebuild or really take a season to get any better. They're really in a win-now situation, so I'm just looking through and I've highlighted any defensemen in case I do end up with a top pick or something like that. I know the Oilers need defense, especially from the prospect system, so I've just highlighted all the defensemen and had all my scouts just go and focus on them. So let's sim the rest of October. So I sim the rest of October, and not really the best of starts. I'm 4-5-2. Taylor Hall's having a great season, but my team as a whole isn't really scoring at all, so I need to look into changing some things up. I also look at how I'm doing on the power play and penalty kill. My power play isn't so bad, it's near the tops in the league, but my penalty kill is very, very average, so I'm going to look to see if I can't make some adjustments there. So the start of November doesn't go very well. I lose Taylor Hall for about 2 weeks. So I have to make some replacements and adjustments there. I move Ryan Strome up to the top line, and I also address Pontus Aberg, who's just going to fill in on that winger spot for the next 2 weeks, and see if I can't survive this. And the very next game, Ryan Strome gets hurt for about a week. So now I'm down Hall and Strome, and I've got to really thin out my depth here, so I'm going to have to dress another scratch guy in Tyrati, and again, I just need to hold off for the next week. So November didn't go much better. Now I'm 10-12-3 and starting to get a little bit concerned because, like I said, I've only got 3 seasons to turn this thing around, and I was pretty confident this would be quite an easy one. So the start has been, pretty garbage, but we're gonna press on here. I thought about making some moves, but again, Hall and Strome were hurt, and those are two big pieces for my lineup, so I just kind of left them the same and went into December with the same lineup, thinking that things would turn around. And what do you know, 11-3 in December, and we're right back into the thick of things, guys. Now we're second in the Pacific Division. Taylor Hall's at a point per game, and we're cruising right along into January. So just trying to look to improve my team, I go and take a look at my goaltender stats, and Al Montoya is just having a piss-poor season. So I decide that I need to go and upgrade my backup goaltender and see if I can acquire anyone. I go to the Vancouver Canucks trade block, and I am able to pick up Anders Nielsen to see if, as he's having a pretty good season so far, and it seems to be an upgrade over Al Montoya. A little while later, I get an offer from the Sharks for a second-round pick for a third and a fourth, and Kyle Brodziak. I don't really need Brodziak this season. He hasn't really done anything, and he's just sitting on my fourth line, so I might as well take a second-round pick from my Sharks. So we finish off January with another decent month. We're 28-19-3 going into February, where the trade deadline is about to happen, and, the stretch run. So, just checking in on the scoring race, McDavid's got 54 points in 50 games. He's 11 points back of Crosby, but there still is quite a bit of the season to go. Taylor Hall's also having a good season. I don't really have any rookies yet, so I don't really have anyone in the Calder race, and Oscar Klefbom's my leading defenseman in scoring, but he is well back of Doughty and Subban and all. So I did call up Kyler Yamamoto to play on the first line with McDavid and Hall. He's a point per game already, having a great start to his career this season. I'm looking through my lineup and the recent struggle I've had in the season, and I just don't have enough scoring, which is amazing considering the lineup, and I need to see if I can't upgrade that as I approach the trade deadline. So I go to the trade block and see what I can find as I approach that deadline date. And I land on the Ducks trade block. Ryan Kessler's not really going to do anything for me. My center depth is really good. But Jakob Silfverberg is another scoring winger that would really help my third line or my first, depending on if someone gets hurt, things like that. So he's someone that I want to target. So I looked at the trade block, see what I can do, and I was able to get Jakob Silfverberg, who's an 83 overall, having about 30 points in about 55 games this season, for a second and a third round pick. The picks aren't really going to hurt me all that much because, again, I don't have time to watch them build. So Jakob Silfverberg slides right into my lineup already, and now my forward group is that much better. So I'm looking at the trade block. I still need that stud defenseman, I feel. And sure enough, Buffalo wants to get rid of Rasmus Ristolainen, so who am I to say no? Time to throw a big boy offer. So I offer my first round pick this season as well as next season and Matt Benning. And here we are. We've got a stud defenseman. I threw in a second round pick as well, so that was a huge offer as far as picks go, but I've got that top pairing defenseman. So we finish March, we're 46-28-4. Connor McDavid's got 105 points, well on his way to his next Art Ross trophy. We're fourth in the Western Conference, but first in the Pacific Division, lined up for a good early first round matchup in the playoffs. So here we are, last game of the regular season against the Calgary Flames. I figure it's a good rivalry game, might as well see how it goes. You know, I've got to say, I've never actually watched the CBU play the CPU and see how it actually plays out. But 2 minutes in this rivalry game, we got a huge hit and an answer from my guys in Travis Hamonic dropping the mittens.
Terrific stop from right in front of the net, but you got to find a way to put the puck in the net.
Recollected. No team worth its name is going to let that go. Okay, so we got a guy hurt here, and it looks like a fight's going to start.
And that is one way to respond after you have an injured teammate.
Rivalries ebb and flow, but with these two teams, it always seems to be the same. The games run hot, they're physical, and you always expect that there's going to be a tipping point where you see this. The gloves are down, and the guys are going at it.
Nothing new, a fight between these two teams, and this one is over. That's why they move up the wing. Quick shot. Score! The celebration is on. Not every goal is clean. This one bounced in, but they'll have the same joy because it counts.
Sometimes when you score first, you take the edge off your own team.
Caroms it on to Reeder. A rocket! He scores! Just before the period ends.
I gotta say, this is hilarious to see this happen to the CPU.
Fires. Oh, and it's off the mark. He shot that in his own net. It's a goal.
Man, Doc, I don't know what he is thinking. This is a blackout shot into his own net. I can't even come up for an excuse for what he is doing here. He needs to sit down and think about it.
That was the regular season finale in my do-over series with Edmonton. 50-win season. Connor McDavid got the Art Ross Trophy, what else is new? And we finished first in the Pacific Division. It's playoff time. So, like I said, we won the Pacific Division, and we have Chicago in the first round of the playoffs. The rest of the bracket looks like this. We've got the Flames and the Kings, St. Louis and the Sharks, Minnesota and Nashville in the west, and then the Capitals, Flyers, Devils, Pens, Tampa, Florida, and Toronto against the Rangers in the East. So going into the playoffs, this is my forward group. Jakub Silfverberg had a pretty decent year. He is on my first line. Yamamoto was filling in, but he was hurt. So Puljujarvi, Nugent Hopkins, Taylor Hall up front. And then on defense, we've got my full decor of Hamonic, Clefbaum, Ristolainen, Darnell Nurse, as well as Ethan Bear and Kevin Gravel. So let's sim through game one. It's an easy 4-1 win for the Oilers, and we're up 1-0 in this series. Barzal had 2 points, as well as the rest of pretty balanced scoring for game one. On to game two, and Cam Talbot ends up with a 3-0 shutout win, cruising right along in our first round series against Chicago, and we're up 2-0. Going into game three, we get a huge addition back with Leon Draisaitl recovering from injury. Now it's time to put the clamps on. Well, it looks like we're going to at least get one game from the Blackhawks in this series. Thought that the Draisaitl return would boost them into a 3-0 lead, but game three win for the Blackhawks, and it's 2-1 us going into game four. All right, so we did win game four. I thought that we would take a moment and watch the end of game five, as well as someone getting absolutely tattooed.
Around for a couple of good chances.
That puck's loose, not too well handled. Lets it go. And finally, play is stopped. Poor guy.
Nugent Hopkins.
Yikes, Nuge got crushed.
Edmonton's looking to head man up the wing. Lets it go. Score! That puts his team up by a pair. 2. The other is out. This series is over, and the winners move on.
Fans at home now will be celebrating tonight if their team wraps this series up.
Tournaments are exciting, especially when they are well played. We look with anticipation to our next game. Hope you do too. Good night for now.
So going into the second round, I want to move around my lineup a little bit. Kylie Yamamoto is back. He was lights out in the regular season with McDavid and Hall. So my second line of Draisaitl, Barzal, and Puljujarvi stays together. And then Reeder, Strome, and Silfverberg is my third line. I'm still waiting on Niklas Hjalmarsson to come back from injury. But other than that, my team's looking pretty good going into the second round, and we get the Flames. So, like I said, we get the Flames. The Blues took care of the Sharks in 7. The Wild took care of the Nashville Predators in 6 in the West. And then in the East, we've got the Flyers versus the Pens and the Leafs versus the Lightning in the conference semifinals. And what do you know, I get Niklas Hjalmarsson back just in time for round 2, so things are shaping up real nice. So let's pick it up in Game 2. We dropped Game 1 to those Flames, but Game 2 went a little bit better. Ended up winning by a score of 4-1. Looking to see if we can't get the series lead going into Game 3. So Kyler Yamamoto cannot stay healthy, so Pontus Aberg checks back in. I figured it's 1-1 after 3 periods here, so why don't we check in and see how this one ends.
Of hockey so far, and more to come. With Eddie Olczyk and Ray Ferraro, Mike Emrick, overtime has begun. Shoots, hits the post. Good place to shoot from, and he does. Oh, he got it. You couldn't have chosen a better guy for that shot, or in the slot. Pass. Wonderful work in close, and a player skated up on the side. Looking from the corner. Lets it go. That one's off the frame. You cannot have given more than these players have, and yet they will be tested for at least one more shift before we have a final score.
Just a reminder to always keep your eye on the puck.
Yes, I know what you're thinking. Did I actually watch 2 full overtimes? Yes. And I'm not going to lie, because I'm simming this and I only get 1 shot at it, it was hilariously entertaining because it was super intense, and I really wanted the Oilers to win.
Period begins with one team still short. The penalty kill continues on this faceoff. It's dumped in. Moving it to Stone. Looking to Hannafin. What a hit!
That's what we love about this game.
Moved along and in. Lets it go. Score! The overtime winner. And the players spill over the boards to celebrate. Game 3 is history. Tie is broken. A bit of momentum, but it will take more.
There's a lead in the series, but no
Alright, on to Game 4. So as if I didn't take enough punishment watching 3 overtimes and then still losing. In this game, the Oilers are down 3-2 going into the 3rd period, and I'm like, I got a better feeling about this, so I want to watch it.
So far, and more to come. Third period has started here.
Again, move the puck, get the puck to the net.
And that one's sent back out.
That's the only play he had there, Doc, is to get it out of his own zone.
Last minute to go in the 3rd. Backhander to the net. Score! And this game is not over. It's tied.
Let's go. 50 seconds to go. The boys tie it up. We're going to overtime yet again.
Puck loose, couldn't get through. Corral. Score! And the overtime is finished. This matchup decided in overtime, and the series is tied, showing just how close these teams are.
Both teams not giving their opponents much to work with. We had to go to overtime in order to close this out. With the series tied, it could still go either way.
That shot is delivered quickly before he can shut down the 5-hole. The puck scoots through before he has a chance to close it up.
Matthew Barzal keeps us alive. One of the do-overs making his impact here in the 2nd round of the playoffs.
See you next time. Good night, all.
So on to Game 5. And after a pretty close game, Oilers end up winning this one 3-2. We've got them on the brink. Let's go. Alright, here we are in Game 6, boys. Gonna be up 3-2 in the 3rd period. We gotta see how this one ends.
So far, and more to come. 3rd period underway. If you're just joining us, you've gotten here at the right time. And he gains the zone. Snaps the wrister. Handled with the stick. Goes for it. He knocked it in himself. It's in the net. It counts.
There's the old adage, get it to the net. You never know what can happen. This goes off the goaltender and in.
Good grab again. He scores! 4 unanswered goals. They haven't reached the ultimate yet, but this is an enormous step. They have clinched this series.
The players are going to feel awfully good about wrapping up this series, but they're going to have to rein it in and prepare for the next round.
It was another great night of playoff hockey. We hope you liked it and will watch next time. For Eddie and Ray, Doc saying good night.
And just like that, boys, so far we are on to the third round, and we are going to be facing the St. Louis Blues. So let's check into the rest of the playoff bracket. And it looks like the Leafs are playing the Pens. I really don't want to have to play the Leafs in my first do-over series. And let's get into Game 1. Oilers come out with the goals by Kajula and Puljujarvi. It's a 2-1 Game 1 win for the Oilers. On to Game 2, boys. Game 2 is much of the same. Hall gets the game winner, so again, another do-over guy taking care of business in round 3. And now we're up 2-0 in the conference finals. Game 3 is an absolute massacre. The Oilers come out with 5 goals in the first period, led by Taylor Hall's 4 points. These guys cruise to the 7-4 win, and they're up 3-0 in the conference finals. 1 win away from a sweep into the finals in our first do-over series, guys. Well, Game 4, I figured they would show up eventually, and the St. Louis Blues do take this one by a score of 3-1. And they do force a Game 5, so let's see if we can end it now. Alright, so here we are in Game 5. It's a close game all the way throughout, so I figure I might as well just watch the clock go. Sometimes I find that works a little bit better. But again, the St. Louis Blues just ain't going away. So they take Game 5 by a score of 4-2 and force a Game 6. But we're good, right? We're not like the worst in history, like the Sharks and all the other 3-0 collapses. Oh, I hate the Kings so much. Oh my god. I figure it's time to mess up the line, so I put Draisaitl back on the first line, move Silverberg down to the third, and Pontus Aberg will stay, back where he belongs on the third line with Tobias Reeder on the second, and we're going to go and see if this doesn't get us our win in 6 after being up 3-0. Here we are in Game 6, and they jump out to a 2-0 lead, and at this point I'm like, man, the game can't actually be doing this to me. So we tie it up and make it 2-2 in the third, and literally like 30 seconds later they score again and make it 3-2, and I'm like, alright, we're watching this, because I refuse to believe that a 3-0 sweep, reverse sweep is happening here.
In possession. Maybe can change the tide at center ice. Pitching it to Schwartz. Net empty! He scores! Save there. One of the most exciting phrases in hockey. Game 7. And they've earned it.
They've pushed to Game 7, Doc. Hockey fans everywhere will be waiting impatiently for that one.
Okay, what the f***? Alright, boys, it can't happen this close to the finals. I need to not have to do another season. I want to win the Cup in my first go-around. So let's get through the game here. I'm simming the time. They go up 1-0. I'm like, perfect. And 10 seconds later, we tie it up. It's 1-1. Going through the rest of the first period. Again, I'm on pins and needles because I really don't want to have to do another season with the Oilers. I think this team is more than good enough. Hjalmarsson also came back for Game 2, so my lineup's a little bit better. We're going into the second period here. Again, I'm just waiting to see, a big blow-up of goals because it's been 3 straight losses. And sure enough, I end up scoring here and make it 2-1. We're going into the third period, I think, up by 1. Feeling pretty confident. And, I think that we finally got it here. So, into the third period, real quick. We score up 3-1, feeling good. Couple minutes go off the boards here, and it's 3-2, and it's 3-3. Like, What is happening, boys? We're watching this, and I'm going to sit and just in awe if this actually happens.
Edmonton's got another win. Puck loose, couldn't get through. Score!
I mean, the fact that I actually fist pumped in my chair watching a CPU play another CPU in NHL was pretty astounding, but it's just how invested I am to try to actually win with this series.
On that face-off, they've won. Now let's see what they deliver. Score! It's another.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Well, not gonna lie, didn't expect to see that out of this round after leading 3-0. Almost coughed up the entire lead and had a reverse sweep pulled on us. But here we are. First do-over series, first sim to the finals. Let's go get it, boys.
Named for the longtime president of the NHL is the Clarence Campbell Bowl, and it goes to the Western Conference team that has its sights set on a Stanley Cup next time. But will they touch this one or not? That's always the question. The tournament moves along.
So, we are on to the Stanley Cup Finals, and the Pens beat the Leafs in 7. Sorry, Leafs fans. Let's see if my Oilers do-over can't get it done in year 1. So, Game 1 goes as pretty much a perfect Game 1 in the Stanley Cup Finals can go. Oilers got out to a 2-0 lead and then just absolutely continued to crush the Pens. And I hate the Pens, so this was fantastic. Almost every player on the team also got a point in this game. I went and checked. There was like 2 guys that didn't. It was crazy. On to Game 2, and it is a completely back-and-forth game. Edmonton had the lead after the first period, but then proceeded to squander the entire thing and fall in Game 2 to the Penguins by a score of 4-3. So here is Game 3. A little bit nervous because, again, I don't want to fall behind at all and jump out to the early 2-1 lead, and that does, in fact, actually end up being the final score. We're 2-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals, guys. On to Game 4 of the Finals, and it is a good one. McDavid leads it with 4 points, and the Oilers dominate en route to a 5-2 win, going in for the elimination next game. Well, Peter Chiarelli, you're a terrible general manager, and if you just literally stayed away from the Edmonton Oilers, could have had a lot better ending coming up. Go Oilers.
And the game is over. The series is over. Edmonton's won the Stanley Cup. Do you believe the celebration going on?
There is so much that goes into even the possibility of winning a championship. Now they have found the way to the end of the road, and the Stanley Cup is theirs. You go through the handshake lineup and there is sportsmanship to be shown, but it's hard to let go of the intensity of a long and bitter series.
The playoff MVP gets the Conn Smythe Trophy, and here is the winner.
I'm always interested in the way the player reacts to getting this trophy. It's almost like they want to get out of there so they can celebrate the Stanley Cup. You've been selected as the best player in the playoffs, but really all you can think about is that your team is champions.
It's often said it's the hardest prize to win because it takes 8 weeks. And by tradition, the captain is the first to hold it high.
I remember as a kid watching Johnny Busick, the captain of the Boston Bruins, hold the Stanley Cup above his head. I thought it would be the coolest thing to do. Look how proud and happy the captain is here tonight. As long as the Stanley Cup has been presented on the ice, and then the players have made a victory lap with it, there's been a pecking order as to how the cup is handed off. Nobody really talks about it. It just organically happens. But everybody knows there's a seniority to the way that this 30-pound trophy is presented player to player.
You play that hard and that long. You get your names on a trophy, rings on your fingers, and one last photograph. Evidence.
So guys, that was my Edmonton Oilers do-over. What would have happened had Peter Chiarelli just stayed away from the Oilers? Turns out that after a first sim, complete sim, didn't touch it at all, didn't save it and restart, nothing. First sim, was able to win the cup. After some key acquisitions, again, we just made sure that we didn't trade the first-round pick in 2015 and kept Barzal. We also didn't sign Lucic to have the cap space so we could get Hjalmarsson and Hamonic at the beginning of the year. Then made that big move to get Ristolainen, as well as making sure we did not trade Taylor Hall. Like, what a mistake. That alone. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you were able to watch the whole thing, I really appreciate it. Let me know all your feedback. This is my first franchise sim. I don't know if I did anything right. I don't know if I did anything wrong. Only way I'm going to get better at it is if you guys let me know. I had a ton of fun editing it. It took me way longer than I thought. But yeah, hit me with a sub if you like it. Hit me up on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Links are all at the top throughout the whole video. And yeah, guys, stay sweet.